Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Beacon Breakdown. It's our 13th episode here, actually, and this time I am joined by Ethan Decatur.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have this opportunity to talk with you, Mike. I mean, one of your favorite people in the esports program, I know, so I'm glad that we can talk to
You
each other
you are
finally.
a very integral part of our program, I will say. But before we get into a little bit more about our guest here, I just want to quickly recap kind of our last week. It was a very big week in Valpo Esports. We had two championship games going on. Our League of Legends team faced off in the Great Lakes Emergence Finals on Wednesday, and they picked up a 3-1 victory over Bradley Spear. And on top of that, an undefeated season, 10-0 in the
Yeah,
NECC.
I watched that. I don't always completely understand League of Legends just because I've never played it before. And every time I debate if I should get into it or not, I'm always like, too much to learn, too much confusion, too much material to learn. So I definitely give hats off to people who have, played the game so much that they're at such a high level of play.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Coach Chase as well. He's one of those people that does play it a lot and knows, all those little details, and he really helped our team prepare for that series. Uh, we have Vector, aka Nolan, in chat saying I'm on the team and I don't even understand League of Legends. So,
Well, I'm good friends with Jacob Felix, who's on the team,
yes.
and he convinced me to tune in a few times and watch a few times. And I watched a championship game, and I mean, the only way that I knew that Valpo was winning is when the announcers said it, just because I was so confused. I had friends who were on a competitive team back in high school, and they tried to explain to me. I've just never been able to get my head around it. So.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to our casters as well. Blake and Cade were on the mic for almost 4 hours.
I know, I saw that. Every single time that I was like, oh, they have to be done by now. It's been going on for hours. I would go back to the tab and it would still be running. So,
Yes, so incredible job by everyone, and a really great way to cap off the season for those guys. They got a chance to go to land, chance to be undefeated, and a lot of great improvement from that team considering they missed playoffs. In the spring semester. So huge bounce back for them. Our other team that was in action this week, Overwatch Shield, had a championship game the very next day on Thursday. I mean, we were in here till midnight on Wednesday, and then 6 o'clock on Thursday, we're back in here again for Overwatch, and another victory for Valpo, 4-0 over Carroll.
and you know what? Because of that win, Tristan got everyone some muffins and fruit, which I was very appreciative of. I didn't have any over the weekend because I was gone, but I came in here this afternoon and had a nice blueberry muffin. So,
Yeah,
thank you to Overwatch for getting us some.
I think he probably would have gotten it win or lose. It wasn't like a
Well,
payoff, but
if they had lost, then it would have just been a consolation prize. So
that's true.
so
Yes,
yeah.
and
And Muffin Mike will be eating all of the muffins
Of
next week.
course. I told this guy those walnut and cranberry muffins are just my favorite, absolute favorite. So,
In Mike's words that he said to me a few weeks ago, I'm not a big fan of fruits and vegetables, so I don't think he'll be enjoying those
yes.
carrot muffins too much.
If any viewers watching would like some muffins, feel free to head down to the esports lab. We got plenty. So, but back to Overwatch. Super super dominant win on their part. They faced off against this Carroll team in the first week of the regular season, and they got wiped 3-0. And then we see how much improvement they had over the semester to come in and just reverse it. Sweep the other way. I think a really big part of that was adding in a new player, Ben, aka Fusk. Very high ranked player, and throughout the semester, he really started to integrate in the team, build up that chemistry, and he was a huge part of that win and that championship last week.
Yeah, I watched that game too, those games, and Overwatch is a game that I have played a good amount of, and I do understand that. But even just, I mean, Garrett, who's on the Overwatch program, was also on our iRacing program this year, and watching him play and talking to him about it, I think I've played, geez, I think 300 hours of Overwatch maybe, and I the ability gap is just unreal. Like I don't think that I bet I could play for another 800 hours and I still wouldn't be at the same ability level as, I mean, I would hope I'm not because they're
Yeah.
they're our main team. But yeah,
Yeah, no, definitely, an incredible amount of time. I've heard that some players had put in over 300 hours just this competitive season on
yeah.
Overwatch. So,
When we had when Bryce hosted that Overwatch LAN party
hmm
a few months ago, and I was in the lab playing some Overwatch before that because I didn't want to get absolutely embarrassed, and I still got absolutely
of
embarrassed, so it
course,
didn't
yeah.
really help that much. But just seeing like some of the players on the competitive team, their playtime, it was like 1,500, 2,000 hours, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I can't really imagine dedicating that much time to something just because I've never had the opportunity to become that good at something. But so props to people who stick it through, and it definitely paid off for them.
Yeah.
So they're
I
definitely
mean,
seeing the results.
the dedication came in huge. Shout out also, like you said, to Garrett, the only senior on the team. And I was here in the lab the other night. They were doing their end of season awards, a little Overwatch get together, and Garrett got the Mr. Clutch award during that. So uh, that's kind of who he's been for the team, really embodies that, and, coming up with those huge plays when they need it. So great to have that veteran, mentality on the team.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's difficult to. I mean, some teams have done it, but I think that's kind of a perk that Valpo's had is since they have had, the past 5, 6 years or so to develop the program. And I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself on what you want to talk about, but um, the way that Valpo's been able to develop their program, they've been able to kind of build upon each graduating senior. So it doesn't really feel like, at least in my opinion, it doesn't feel like the efforts of upperclassmen was lost because everything that Valpo's done is kind of build it upon things that they've done in the years before. Like when Bryce, Overwatch coach, was a
Yeah.
student here, he was one of the like founding members of esports on campus. But it's not like as soon as Bryce left, the program went and changed that much. It kind of built on what he'd
Well,
already done for the
Bryce didn't
program.
really leave, did he?
Bryce
I
also
mean,
didn't really leave. When Bryce left as a player, I guess we'll say, and transitioned to be a coach,
yes.
it's not like his legacy was lost. They definitely continued that, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
One of the better things that Valpo does.
I do see Father Pyro in the chat here. I'm not sure if he's still here, but huge props to him. And you talk about him making that transition from player to coach. I actually had the honor of writing an article up about that. So if you want to hop on over to Valpo Esports or valpo.edu/esports, that story is there.
Our wonderful website,
Yes,
very
of
well designed
course.
website.
Well, I update it. I am the maintainer of that website, so lots of good info and stories there for anyone to check out. So to transition into kind of our next segment, we got you on the show, so I want to take a moment to, hear a little bit about you as a kind of a longtime esports participant. How did you get started with esports?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I've kind of just had a lot of convenient opportunity to stay involved with esports. I mean, when I came to Valpo, I was on the Rocket League team, and that was back when we just had one team. And the members on that team were Hayden, who's no longer here, he transferred, and then Daniel Murphy, who's still on the competitive team,
Yep.
and then Cole, who's also still on the competitive team, myself, and then my freshman year roommate James, who's also transferred. So it's kind of narrowed down to the originals who are still on the team, just being Cole and Daniel. But I was really lucky that even though I wasn't necessarily still on the competitive team for Rocket League, just other commitments came up, and that's what happens in college. I think the benefit of Valpo's program is that I was able to get involved in streaming and broadcasting for a game that I knew and understood really well and had had a lot of playtime on that I didn't necessarily have the time to practice and put in the time dedication that these guys who are on the team can. I was still able to broadcast and help out in that way. So it definitely kind of gave me an ability to stay involved. But my journey, I mean, I didn't really have a competitive esports opportunity until college. My high school did have a competitive team, but it was a very high performing competitive team. I would almost hesitate to say this, but I would bet a little bit of money that my high school's team could probably go toe to toe with Valpo's Rocket League program. They were very good. Some of the players on the team got full ride scholarships for
Wow.
playing Rocket League, which
Yeah.
is kind of unheard of, as you know, getting scholarships for esports. But Yeah, so I didn't have that opportunity in high school, but once I got to college, Valpo kind of gave me that opportunity to stay involved. And now I'm back on a competitive team with iRacing, and I still do broadcasts. And I'm going abroad, so hopefully Tristan will have me back to do more broadcasts when I come back in 5 months.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, I think you're definitely more than welcome back, but talk to me about what was that, first year like with, Cole and Daniel and those other guys that have since left.
Yeah, so I mean, the first year was definitely, it felt a lot more like just guys getting together to play Rocket League, or guys getting together to play League of Legends, or like just kind of getting together, hanging out. We were in the small upstairs, second floor lab in the Union. We had
Yep.
6 PCs. I make that joke to you all the time. The 6 PC era of Valpo Esports. Um, but yeah, it looked a lot different. There wasn't quite as much of an emphasis on being in the lab for practices. Usually we would just practice from our dorms, or, from our home systems, stuff like that. And then it was kind of just, they were building block years, right? So, I mean, Tristan didn't put a ton of pressure on us to perform,
Yeah.
top tier every single year. Of course, you want to see the team succeed, but it's not quite so realistic for a first or second year program to just rise their way right up to the
Yeah,
top right
and I mean,
away.
I've talked to Tristan, kind of our program goal is to, build that culture first, and then, maybe the victories come later, but, it's all about creating that positive environment, really.
Yeah, in team culture, I can definitely say it was huge, especially in that first year, and I think it's even more so now. But it was definitely emphasized in that first year a lot. Um, Everyone really got playing time. It wasn't, and that still holds true today for the most part. A lot of coaches like to cycle their players around, try out new things. So if you're on the team, chances are you will get the opportunity to play on the competitive stage, which I thought was really cool. Even if, uh, you know I might not have had as good of a skill level as, like, let's say Cole. Our coach was still able to kind of put us on a team together to make us work together, and got competitive play time as well. So that was cool, especially for a small program, because it kept people wanting to come back. So people had the incentive to get better and practice on their own, because they knew that if they did that, then they were going to see more playing time, which was definitely very beneficial for the program in its early years, because it had great retention. I mean, a bunch of guys are back unless they transferred or left and stuff like that.
Exactly. And I mean, kind of looking back, I know you didn't play Rocket League the whole time, obviously, but, like you said, you've been involved and, seeing where we're at now, this new lab in the basement, over 60 players in our program. Is it kind of like crazy to you to see, how quickly it's come together?
Yeah, it is, and I was talking to Bryce about that when he was here at the beginning of October, uh, like here in person for a little while. That was a nice surprise when I
Yeah.
walked in here and Bryce was down here. But it's very cool to see the program develop. I mean, when I joined, it was probably, oh geez, maybe 15, 20-ish players. 20 would be the high number there. Very limited. And now to see like you and Tristan go to high schools in the area and recruit that way. Like Ricky got iRacing started here, and we have two competitive teams, at least two competitive teams for every single sport. And I've even heard there's talk for some sports of adding a third team. Um, just whisperings and rumors, stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and like club teams are in the talk now, like
Yep.
non-competitive teams are in talk. Like I never would have thought that just in my 4 years time here that that would have been possible. And it makes me really excited for, when I'm 28, 30 years old coming back for homecoming, to see how the program has kind of changed and developed here. And whether that be under Tristan or whoever that be under, if it even has its own kind of department by then, it'll be really cool. I think that Tristan did a good job of seeing that esports is going to be more popular than some people might give it credit for, and it is a bigger kind of benefit in industry to have here than some people might give it credit for as well. So I have to give Tristan a lot of props for proving to people that esports does have a place on a college campus, and how much of an impact it can have on both the school and on, the relationships that people form being on these teams.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just the growth, like overall, has been huge. Valpo, this is our fourth year in the program, but just nationwide, a lot of these programs didn't even exist. I think 10 years ago, definitely there was absolutely nothing in the college space. So, been very rapid for us and for everyone. to talk a little bit more about you, though, you traded out one car game for another car game. What happened there?
Yeah, I would warn you that some people might not approve of you calling iRacing a game.
Sorry.
Um,
Simulator. Yes, my
iRacing
bad.
coach Ricky Pass is always very adamant that it is a
Yes.
simulator, but
Yes.
I'll call it a game for the sake of simplicity. It's definitely much different. I still play a considerable amount of Rocket League. My roommate now is big into Rocket League, and still play with him. Still play with Cole every once in a blue moon if the opportunity comes up. That's always fun, kind of nostalgic, but. Um, it's definitely a shift. I'd say that iRacing is a little bit more. I hesitate to say more pressure. It does feel a little bit more real since, I myself, I race in VR and we have the simulator setups in here and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit more immersive. So it does feel a little bit higher consequence. My heart definitely gets going a lot more during
Yeah.
iRacing than it does in Rocket League. And being in the VR definitely adds a whole different element to that as well. Um, Sometimes it's very realistic, especially when you roll your car. You kind of
Yeah.
the room starts spinning. You kind of just put your head down and close your eyes and wait for it to be over.
That
But it's a
VR
different.
nausea, right? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I'm very lucky that I don't get that.
Hmm.
Matt Warren, who's on the iRacing team, says that he could never race in VR because he gets nausea just from driving his car.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful
Not
that I
for
don't have that.
everyone.
I think I like driving my car too much anyway, so I hope that that wouldn't happen. But it's been a shift, and the one thing that hasn't changed though has been the culture. I think that the team culture has been just as good on the iRacing team as it was on the Rocket League team. And I still have connections to some of the guys on the Rocket League team just from having played and doing their broadcasts and stuff. And that culture has been really cool too, to kind of be able to be involved with everyone. I mean, it says it on the side of our jerseys. Tristan preaches it all the time, like the "we not me" mentality, and it's definitely can be seen in the program. Just we're all kind of one big team, even though we're all on our different, sides. And sometimes when we're all in the lab and everyone's being loud, we might get frustrated with each other. We might tell each other to quiet down, stuff like that. But overall, we are, it's all lighthearted and we are all one big program and one big team here, which it's a cool mentality that Valpo puts out, the unity rather than oh, you play League of Legends or you play Overwatch and separating each other that way. It's like we're all in the esports program, so unifying us rather than, separate programs. So
Yeah, definitely, the one big family atmosphere,
yeah,
really.
yeah. And that's kind
Um,
of true for Valpo just as a school in general. And
yeah,
that's definitely the difference of, a 3,000 person school rather than a 30,000 person school. So
definitely. A little bit on the results side of iRacing. You were Valpo's best driver this semester, top 10 finish, How does it feel to come out and perform that way, I guess?
Well, I will say, a little bit was a little bit of luck. I was able to avoid a couple of crashes on track that got me some positions. A little bit was convenience, and I'd like to think that at least a little bit of it was some skill.
Oh, of course.
Ricky did a really good job this season of making sure that all of us got in practice time and were prepared for each week. So there wasn't really any time that I got into a race and I was like, oh, I'm totally out of my league. Like these guys are just going to dust me. It's going to be miserable for 2 hours sitting here. But racing 2 days a week, Mondays and Tuesdays, definitely kind of gave me an experience boost that I think would be really helpful. I'm disappointed that I won't be here for the spring season just because I will be studying abroad. I think that building on this past season, moving into the next season would be very beneficial. But I mean, next fall will come and that season will come around, and hopefully I will still be on the team then. Unless something crazy happens, I would
Yeah,
hope I would be on the team. Unless Mike finally snaps and tells me to get out of the esports lounge.
that's true. Yeah.
Uh, but
Well, as much as we like to joke, we will miss you next semester. What kind of adventures are you going to be going on?
well, I'm not totally sure my whole entire trip breakdown, but I'm leaving on what, January 5th, going into London for a few days, and then I'll be in Cambridge for most of the semester and hopefully do some traveling through Europe. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see the way it goes. But I'm glad that we have full stream coverage of all of our events now because that'll be, I'll still be able to watch it, even though they might be at some weird times. I'll tune in
Yeah.
when I can. With the 7 hour time difference, it might pose some problems, but I'm glad that we have full stream coverage. That's really cool too because there were only maybe four of us doing streams last year, and it was in that little office
Oh
in New
yeah.
York that you know so well. Little dingy Tristan's old office with the softball batting cages up above us
Yep.
that the thuds from the balls would come up on stream in the audio. So
Yes. Definitely a much
definitely
better setup here, right?
definitely a big thank you to Rig for the proper broadcast headsets so that we don't have to use the old days of the snowball mic
Yes.
on the counter. So exposing us a little bit there.
Still working
But
back here somewhere. We can't get rid of the snowball.
but
But definitely stream coverage, has been a big focus for me too. I think we did over 50 streams this year, and we broke our viewership record on that League of Legends championship game with 42 concurrent viewers. So very happy with that growth, and maybe we can get a stream over 50 next semester. So
yeah, that would be something. I'd like to see that. I think that would be fun. I'm glad that people tune in. In the earlier years, there weren't as many people tuning in, and not to say that it's demoralizing, but it's a little bit of a bummer when you're just preaching to an audience of one.
yeah.
So it's cool to see more viewership on those streams as well.
I mean, Beacon Breakdown probably one of our lower ones, but there's still 5 people in here right
Well,
now,
there you
so
go.
we
Exactly.
take it more than
Exactly.
one. These also get posted to YouTube afterwards, so anyone else can come find it and hear your beautiful commentary. But as we kind of wrap up here, just what does the program mean to you? This is something you've been involved in for a while. That's been a big part of your college experience. So what has it meant to you?
It's definitely kind of given me an extra space on campus to both de-stress and kind of have that community environment. I think like this week during finals week, like when I've gotten stressed about studying or whatever, I'll just come down here and play Rocket League or sit on the simulator for 2 hours, an hour and a half, and it's a really good stress release in that way too. But not only that, not only from like the personal aspect, it's definitely given me a number of different people to connect with, a number of people to say hi to on campus, to talk to. It's like I said, I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but the community
Mhm.
aspect that we have in this program is really strong. It's definitely given a lot of students kind of a place and an excuse to play, the games that they love playing at a really high level, and it's given like them a space to do that and a successful space to do that. I mean, Overwatch just picked up back-to-back championships, and League of Legends picked up their championship, and it's really cool to see how far the program's coming. And I mean, the league breakdowns more than I do and a little bit better than I do, but I mean, I'd almost say that Valpo's becoming kind of a top tier school, especially within Overwatch, but within all of its programs, in the divisions, in their respective divisions. And I think that's really exciting to see. And I think it's given students a way to make an impact on this campus that might not be through traditional athletics or, with like student leadership, like big student leadership positions. It kind of gives people like a niche group to be a part of and something just to develop as themselves and like personal development for that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The growth has been, really incredible. All 6 of our competitive teams made the playoffs this year. I think that might be the first time that that's ever happened. And then 2 championships. It really was a banner semester for Valpo Esports, and I'm excited to see how far we can take it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to watch this spring season. I think it's going to be good. We have a new uh, participant joining the iRacing team. He's also dual wielding between Rocket League and iRacing, so he'll be taking my spot.
The
Um,
the car and the simulator overlap is getting large
yes,
here.
yeah, it's getting large. So he won't be racing oval. He'll be on our road circuit team, which we didn't have this year. So we'll be developing a new competitive team for that too. So
Yep.
definitely branching out.
Lots of exciting opportunities for Valpo Esports. Well, thank you for joining me today. I know it was kind of last minute, but it was
No,
good.
it was fun. I'm glad that the opportunity came out.
Yeah, and I'm glad to get the insight from an one-time participant and a big part of Valpo Esports here. So, thank you, Ethan, and thank you all for tuning in. This is going to be our last episode for the semester, so 3, 4 weeks off here. You won't see us again until January, I don't
And
think.
you won't see me again until next August. So
Yes.
yeah,
So
it'll be a little while.
I will be back in January. He'll be back in spirit, rooting on the teams. I'm sure you can see him in chat for some of these streams. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you guys next semester.